Welcome everyone to a Mere Mortals meandering session. The first of the year.
Yep.
Kyrin here.
Juan here, folks.
Juan on the other side with the delayed reaction.
Yep.
He's obviously had a big New Year's Eve.
Big New Year's Eve. Well, no, we're currently recording this on New Year's Eve, so we're not actually in
He's had a big
2023.
New Year's Eve, people.
But,
That's how this works here. And yeah, welcome everyone. And I'm just going to do a general welcome as well. We might have some new listeners who have never tuned into the Mere Mortals before. So 2023, I'm Kyrin. I'm a general bum, I guess I'd say. I don't have a job. I've been had a job for 6 years.
Useless for humanity. What we normally like to say. So we're talking about Mere Mortals and what makes us Mere Mortals. And we're talking about, if you're like a really fat guy and Kyrin being negative weight. It's basically that. So I normally contribute about
an actual conversation.
Yeah, so normally about double what humanity needs contributions from human, and then Kyrin evens it out by going negative. So then sort of evens out to be Mere Mortals all up. I think I would describe you more so as
I'm like the Christ-like figure, but I don't take all the good, like the bad things that people have done. I take like all the good things they've done,
only the good things.
And then I get rewarded for not doing any of it.
Yeah. I don't know. Again, I don't know what I would describe you as. It would probably have to be something along the lines of like a journeyman. That's what I would say. Kind of like a journeyman. Yeah.
I'm reading this book at the moment called The Courage to be Disliked. And it's kind of Japanese one. Oh man, two Japanese authors. I haven't bothered to learn their names yet. And it's pretty popular. There's another one in the series called The Courage to be Happy, and it's all about this Adlerian psychology sort of deal. And I'm kind of, you'll see in the book review, I'm kind of conflicted on. It seems a bit harsh to me, the philosophy, funnily enough.
Okay.
But there's certain aspects where it's like, like a person who's really living their life, they kind of just, they don't give a shit about these interpersonal relations and other people's judgments on them and stuff like that. And I'm like, yeah, okay, I kind of think I'm living that way in many ways, where it's just all these little judgments that perhaps people would expect, or maybe it's the expectations, or it's like, I don't give a fuck. Like, I don't care. Like, I don't care.
That's what I was gonna say.
I don't care if I'm wearing, like double blue at the moment.
Have you read
usually a fashion.
The popular don't give a fuck by Mark Manson?
I read it over a series of when I was running Game in 2017. I would go to the bookstore all the time, and whilst I was waiting for like cute chicks around, I would read chapters from that book. So yes, I've read it, but man, it was very chopped up.
In choppy ways. Anyways, and I guess I would describe it. I was going to say Kyrin's probably a journeyman, handstander of sorts.
That's it.
Fitness enthusiast when it comes to the bodyweight movements, and podcast connoisseur, I would probably say.
Yeah, I don't normally call myself curious per se. I'm not sure curiosity is my defining aspect, but I do enjoy diving into the things that jump out at me and people that jump out at me. So mini hobbies here and there. I'm never going to be elite at something. I could maybe become sub-elite.
Okay.
Mere mortal light.
Yeah. Mere mortal top level. It's like the upper ranks, upper like rings that you can achieve when you're a mere mortal. Yeah,
basically it's like you're pretty good, but you're still not
mere mortal.
noteworthy.
Yeah, I like that. That's cool.
And you, Juan? How would you
describe myself? Have the usual full-time job. That's a 9 to 5, although it sort of varies depending here and there. Definitely fitness aficionado. Default assertiveness, not aggressiveness, is my way to going.
Default assertive.
And I definitely fall under the magic that is experimentation about things I find I'm passionate about. I'll talk about something of that today, right now, actually, which is the AI creations or drawing.
Yeah.
So I kind of got into it primarily. I heard it on a podcast many months ago, and I tried it once. And for whatever reason, I didn't have an incentive. I didn't have the real reason to want to do it. I just kind of saw it, played it well, and I was like, that's it. That's what I'm doing with it. Cool. Yeah. And I think I might have applied for OpenAI's beta program ages ago when you actually had to apply and just never heard back for it. So I was like, okay, well, I'm not going to try that out.
Stuff them.
Exactly. Stuff them. OpenAI, go away. However, then Tim Ferriss recently obviously created his NFT Cockpunch. And through that, he put out a bit of a contest of, hey, the top 3 people who are able to create what he sees or his team sees as the most closely attached to AI drawing to like the NFT that you own, or he gave some examples of like ones that he owns that you can go and play around with. So If you do that with AI and record it with a video program called Loom and post it with, how you basically did it, he was going to choose the top 3 and give $2,000 to each one of them. In the end, he actually ended up giving 9 people $2,000 because there was quite a few good ones. Now, did I win?
Were you one of them?
I did not. And I submitted 4 times.
Trouble with the scythe.
And he was like,
that video.
He was like, you can create if the more you do and the earlier you do it, the more chance you do it. Still didn't get it. However, he posted the winners right now. Getting back into the AI drawing creation, when sort of that incentive to do it, a bit of money to come through and actually participate in it, I was like, okay, I've got some wanting to do that. And I spent a good 5-6 hours, I reckon, on one weekend just playing around with it, signing in, learning how they each function, where they're kind of drawing things from, not all the way down to foundational, like, okay, how exactly is this doing? Where's the API call? Say with Midjourney, it's through a Discord, and the Discord, you create an intent, basically, or what they call as an imagine. Now, that intent's an API call off to the service to go and do that. I was almost tempted to be like, okay, cool, I want to go and find the network tab, see what the API call is, see what they're actually sending through as the intent, to try to, decipher that. Didn't, so I'm not going to discuss about it further. But I found myself experimenting with it, hardcore. This was, really fun. And what I plan to do, and I haven't done yet, although I put some hours in, maybe in for tomorrow or perhaps the following day, is to go and check out the winners. The winners, because for a lot of them, so again, with a recording of Loom, they've gone through it, actually gone step by step on how they created a lot of.
So you should be able to recreate it, right?
You should be able to recreate it, but more than that is, and more I've been listening to about AI drawing. So if you want to, play around with it, folks, and there's DALL-E 2. There's Midjourney, there's Nightcraft, there's Night Cafe Studio. There's a couple of others out there. You could probably find them. The key in all of it is the intent, or it's the way that you describe what you want the AI or the machine or the algorithm to create. And it's someone else was describing it in it was Tim talking to Kevin Rose about, hey, the magic's really in the intent, like the incantation to create something. And obviously, I just didn't know the proper incantation. And I think that's what I'm going to be interested in, is how did they translate, I want to have a soccer ball floating in the air, or I want to be doing this while painting a dragon in Japanese tradition. What is it that these algorithms are actually picking up to describe it, and what's going to be useless? Because I was demonstrating to people how it actually works, and it was quite simple, and you'd get something, but it wasn't maybe as detailed as you expected. So you probably have to do a really good incantation or intent description for these.
And you were saying in your video, the more details you added in, the worse it kind of got, right?
Yeah, exactly. So it kind of reminded me of that sort of theory of, if you're doing horse racing and you've got experts around who's going to win this particular race with horses, the more information you give them, the worse they actually get in terms of deciphering, because it's just more noise to the to perhaps the ratios or the odds that actually exist, or the statistics. It kind of felt like that to me when I'll put in, so with one, and I don't know if I've edited it or not, but I put in 17 different descriptions, I want this with 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 this, and when it came out, it had half of them not there, or the others. I was like, how can I try to adapt this? Now with things like DALL-E 2, you can rub out certain sections and describe it like, oh no, I want this instead, or I want this added. So perhaps that's probably the way some of them did it. I can't speak, because I haven't actually seen what they used or exactly they created. But there's levels to the intent of the incantation. I think broadly, so I was thinking about that, I was like, that strikes me as interesting, because I'm seeing it in algorithm form, as in, algorithms of AI is needing you to say this in the right way for it to be consumed and understand. And it made me think about, hey, even as we speak on the podcast, as I write emails at work, as I talk to people, as I send a text message to a person, what you think you're writing or saying is perhaps not being interpreted in the right way. And I think it just becomes super obvious when you're talking with an AI thing that's not responding. It's, the way you say it, perhaps if you're saying it angrily or happily, it's not taking that, it's only taking the pure description of the text, transforming it into something that makes you realize okay, I'm not describing this appropriately. Yeah. I'm not doing this right. I don't know if it's the exact same comparison that you do to a human. If I say, hey, I want a green tree that's, blossoming flowers, is the AI not going to know that blossoming means for me this particular thing and to every other human? So there is obviously the differentiation, but it just made me realize through that experimentation of, hey, there's some real importance to be very precise with your words.
There's a meme I saw recently, which is, I think it was on Twitter, and it was basically a screenshot of a guy who had just texted his friend, and he said, "Dog, pussy is the best." But he forgot to put in the comma after dog.
Yeah.
So it just read, "Dog pussy is the best." And his friend goes, "Yeah, I think you probably need a comma there, man." It's that classic, the addition or omission of a comma can actually be quite influential. And I think there's even a historical one. This could be kind of one of those creepypasta, never actually urban myth, urban legend things where the Queen was sending a message to someone. So this is back in the day where everything was handwritten, travel across the ocean. And it was related to releasing all the prisoners. And there was a comma missing. And then basically instead of releasing all the prisoners, like they killed all of them or something like that. Okay. And it was I'll see if I can find it, put it up on your screen as you're watching. But yeah, it does seem like incantation's a good word for it. So that magic.
I like how they were saying,
just the right placement of words in the right order. Is,
well, it also made me think of like that's already existing, even though we might not articulate it as such in the title of your YouTube, video that you're putting out.
I think
or
of
the title of
Naval Ravikant. His Twitter is kind of renowned for being very, very pithy, very short to the point, and it's kind of jam-packed full of wisdom in as minimal words as possible.
Yeah. So anyways, I find, interestingly, as always, with experimenting in AI, driven obviously by the fact of an incentive to try and win money, or get some money. Through that, actually, probably discovered another interesting piece of like, oh yeah, I've seen this before, but never like as clearly demonstrated to me as possible in that way. So I was like, yeah, that was cool. So I would recommend, folks, this is my little takeaway for you guys. Don't go check out my loom. Actually, don't even go to Cockpunch or Tim Ferriss's post, whatever.
Well, how would I find one of the 9 winning submissions?
Go to Tim Ferriss's Twitter, and he's posted in the last week or so, and he did like a big thread on the top 9 who actually won.
His actual Twitter or like
his actual Twitter?
The Tim
No,
NFT?
his actual Twitter.
Okay.
So there's Tim Ferriss Twitter, there's a Tim Twitter, there's a Cockpunch Twitter, there's all of the houses Twitter, Tim Ferriss Twitter.
Okay.
Yep.
Okay. Cool.
So that's my little action for you. Go check it out.
Very good. Very good. I was going to give you an option between these two because I've got 2 points for today, but I've found a way to link this one. So
force the hand.
I think the reason that you might not have won, and I'll put it down to pretty much one reason, is you didn't put in the time, man. You didn't put in the grind.
Yep.
4.5 hours. Puh! Get out of my face with that. So one of the things I've been kind of getting into recently is speedrunning. So if you checked out...
Speedrunning?
Yeah, speedrunning of games in particular. So if you checked out the musings, and in particular the section, the live area before we actually begun, I played this clip for one called Streets 112.
Yep.
Which is this really famous... it's kind of... I think it's the most famous speedrun in terms of reaction of the actual player, because it's so extreme. He's just I am fucking clutch, I am clutchness, and he's talking and it's this hilarious video basically of this guy playing GoldenEye, a level in GoldenEye, and basically looks at the ground the whole time. So GoldenEye is not a Nintendo 64 game. It's not optimal graphics in terms of 2023 quality. And so he's looking at the ground the whole time, because the graphics, if he looks up, it makes a game lag, and it's just him doing all these straight lines to basically get to the area as quick as possible, which is what a speedrun is in a game. It's basically going from A to B as quick as possible. And man, the amount of just complexity and effort and time that people put into it. I'm not the biggest fan of just games in general. I'm not a gamer. I played God of War and video games as a kid, but it wasn't, my life didn't become obsessed with it.
Yep,
for sure. But watching some speedruns on YouTube, I went down a little bit of a rabbit hole, and there was a couple of really just things I took out from it, which I thought were maybe worth bringing up. So I'll talk about one in particular today, which is the Ninja Gaiden. no damage run. So there was this game called Ninja Gaiden or Gaiden, I don't know how you pronounce that word, and once again, very basic. I think it was Atari, perhaps, like on an Atari console. So imagine enough pixels that if you looked at your screen, you could count them individually down. You know, it's probably, I don't know, 30 by 60 across or something like that. And for 30 years, this game was thought of as there's speed runs through it, and then there was no damage runs. And so no damage runs are where you basically get through the whole game and you don't take a single hit. And for 30 years, this game was known as, you know, you could do a no damage run, but the no damage would always be in quotation marks. And so funnily enough, this guy did this no damage run, which so many of their YouTube channels are just, they're amazing people doing these incredible things, and then they'll title it Ninja Gaiden, quotation marks, no damage, and quotation marks, run. It's like they do this almost impossible thing, and they do not hype it up at all. It's just like,
it's not straightforward.
Straight up, like basic. I don't know. It's I think it's like reminiscing back to how perhaps we used to title episodes. Episode 1, 3 weeks in Japan, or something like.
Just like straightforward. This is what it is. Yep.
This is what it is. There's no hyping, no creating interest and whatnot. And this no damage run stood for 30 years, but it was quotation marks because on the final level, when you're versing the boss, you cut off its head, and basically the head drops and moves to the left of the screen. And it's a big ass head compared to your character, and so it was impossible to actually avoid this damage that when it hit you. So there would always be quotation marks, you know, no damage run. And then finally, you know, people were playing around with it, and a lot of them use these things called TAS, tool assisted runs. And so basically they will use coding and like kind of deconstruct the game to find out what's the optimal way to actually get through this level. Like, the rules of the game dictate this. It doesn't matter how, if the player can actually hit the buttons that quickly on the controller, it's what would be the actual optimal run for this. And there's these fascinating ones with, I think it's Mario 64, maybe just Mario, one of the Mario ones, where they've got it down to frames now. It's how many frames can you cut off to do this kind of perfect run. It's just and the frames are, you know, one frame every 24 frames a second or something like that, or, you know, you have to get it on this just exact portion of a second to get it right.
That's crazy.
In any case, this guy, they basically, with the tool assisted run of Ninja Gaiden, they found out you can avoid the head damage. You basically just have to hit the head 11 times and it will destroy, and it won't just fall down and go to the left. And so what they were doing is, like, the character would jump and you could slash cancel is what it was called. So you'd like do a full slash, but normally that takes a second to do. But if you do a slash cancel, which is you jump, you slash, and then you cancel the slash, and then you kind of do that again and again, you can get in 4 slashes in a single kind of jump. Right. And what they figured out was, you can actually kill the head. You just have to be really good at going. And then it was, okay, so this is technically possible. It's just really, really hard. But everyone's like, no, it's impossible. You can't hit the controller that fast. Well, you know, people being people, they practice going on the controller. And then finally, some guy proved that it could be done. And he still got hit some damage in the game, but he proved it could be done. And then, of course, they take it to the next level of doing the whole thing,
no damage,
and then doing it. And I was just watching this series of videos of this progress, and it's crazy, man. So this guy did something which is stood for 30 years. 30 years is impossible to do. And he's got, these people are usually 1 to 10K subscribers, maybe. This guy called Slackinator, who did it, had 1.8K on Twitch. And he, I don't know how many hours he devoted to it. I'm going to say at least 1,000.
Like plenty of time.
Extreme. And so kind of impressed on me just how the word impossible or unavoidable can be. Unless the laws of physics dictate this thing is not possible, it is possible. And so, yeah, inspirational, I don't know, words out there for people. Unless it's impossible as dictated by physics, and that's only just as we currently know it. You know, there's always new physics coming up, dictating other things. It is possible, one. So, yeah, if you've done the grinding,
I can think of things that are impossible. Like, you know,
tell me what's
that are not like, you know, what do you mean by dictated by physics? I guess you could say. Cause I was thinking, like, you know, you couldn't count to, you know, infinity or something like that. But that, I guess, maybe you could say time as physics.
I struggle with the concept of infinity. I'm not sure it's real anyway. So,
what do you mean by that?
This will take way too long. My thoughts are not fully formed on it. But the infinity, I'm not sure infinity is a real concept.
Why?
Another topic.
No, that makes no sense. I mean, what would be the nugget that started the thought that infinity is not a concept?
Show me something that is infinite in a kind of is there a way to prove infinity in a kind of tangible way, a way that I can feel and understand in my real life? Because we live in this kind of physical world. Everything is atoms and stuff, and every time I've dived deeper into physics and seen how people fuck around with there's infinity, but then there's this infinity alpha which is greater than, and you can have infinities which are greater than other infinities. This is where I just start to go like, nah, I'm not sure you guys are playing
so
fair.
Is it the fact of not being able to tangibly see that's the reason for the infinity?
That's a portion of it, but it's also... We'll get into it later, man. My thoughts aren't fully formed.
Okay. That's interesting. I mean, the only... because I've heard this one before, and normally some of the other counter-arguments with it is also the fact of, well, can you see love? Can you see, you know, emotional connection?
You know I don't like love, man. That's fucking useless word.
Like happiness, you know? How can
I'm not a fan of man, getting on... Man, you're touching on all my trigger points,
yeah,
man.
So there's a lot of conversations with infinity where it's like, oh... It sounds like Kyrin has not done his 1,000 hours of research on infinity effects. But it is interesting. I wonder, with the guys who won the contest, the AI art contest, if they, I have no idea, if they were previously already artists, how versed they were with AI, you know, AI art creation or AI digital art creation. Because if they weren't, that would be like amazing. That would be really, really cool if they were able to pick that up in 4 or 5 hours and in the way of the intent. Because
this is what people are scared about, right? AI is going to come and take my job. But if it was, I'd maybe give some credence to that if these people who won were just random kind of, I don't know if I'd call you a noob in terms of AI art generation. Yeah. You know a bit about AI.
I know like some of it. I wouldn't even know how it like works.
Yeah. If these were complete noobs or 4 of them were noobs and who had never played around with AI art generation before, then I could be like, oh yeah, AI is going to take your fucking job. You should be more like Kyrin and have no job.
And have no job. Yeah, exactly. Oh, I think undoubtedly we'll like 100% it will at some point. Like there's going to be, whether it's someone's going to be out there who's going to be doing AI plus human, you know, manual editing or interaction, or all the way through to just pure AI, and you better go find yourself another job or a high value position, or else you're out of it. I think undoubtedly they'll do that. Tim Ferriss and Kevin Rose in their latest podcast were talking about they could see a potential where, you know, you get all the way to, hey, machine, whatever, OpenAI, whatever intent-based platform you're using, you'll say, hey, I want to read a book. The book should be about this and this and this, and it'll have, this is the protagonist, and this is how the protagonist... So you like kind of describe what you want to be seen in the book, and it'll create it. So that's text-based. But also going down the path of, hey, create me a movie, and the movie should be like this, and it should have some scenes that are like this, this, and this. And, of course, you're probably going to have to feed it like a lot of manual entry. But again, what it made me think of, hey, all of that is going to be intent-based, the incantation, like how you say it and how you portray it to allow the AI to create it. So for me, I'm like, I could see that happening where, you know, right now,
I feel that'll create some really shit movies.
Well, I mean, this is the interesting thing. Right now, you know, there's, like I was saying, at the small scale, I've created text descriptions and images of the thumbnails that are just AI based, and that's like at the very micro scale, right? I wonder if when we'll see the first kind of few videos that are just totally AI created, where people will just not bat an eye, like it'll be like, oh, we don't know. I have a feeling it'll be some sort of meme or something that goes viral.
Well, that's what I mean. I'm not wowed by. So I was surprised in the essence that yes, Juan created these for the last 2 book reviews. They were just AI generated images, but the wow factor was more, oh wow, you didn't create it. I didn't even realize that. It wasn't, wow, those were some amazing. No, exactly. It wasn't wowing me for the actual content.
It wasn't the content. It was like, oh, okay, that was use. But I have a feeling, because usually at the moment, at least we're in the age we live in, I think it's like meme and the virality of those that would allow something to go through. Like, again, with using OpenAI's DALL-E 2 and Midjourney and that Lexica, whatever it's called, that people were using with taking selfies and doing the different versions of AI, it's going to take something like that that's going to propagate the use of it quite in a viral way. And so I equally see, maybe that'll happen in video format. I saw it a couple of years ago, where it was like you can put your face on a movie, like a famous movie clip, and it'll like transform your face into their face. The usual one is like, Leonardo DiCaprio in Titanic. Yes. You can morph your face into that face. So, that can be done, and it's shoddy. Like you can tell, that sort of thing. But if it was purely like AI created, you fed it enough of the right data, text-wise, image-wise, could it create something that you would just not be able to decipher that is actually real or not? Because, I watched Avatar just recently, and I can tell, like, it's great CGI, but I can tell that it's not real, right? And maybe there's some CGI out there that's like so like photorealistic, it's amazing. If you want to go check out some awesome stuff, check out Unreal Engine 5 video clips of games and stuff like that. Looks ridiculous, but there's that level of like, you can tell it's not really reality. There's that particular feel. I'm not saying this is going to be like a year or two. I'm thinking like, oh yeah, in the future I could definitely see AI video generated content that you would just not be able to tell at all that it's different from someone videoing something. And absolutely, when it comes to like the really famous movie Marvel, that's, I don't know what percent CGI that is, but it's a hell of a lot CGI. I could definitely see that being AI generated to the extent that you're like, well, you now don't need 100 of these staff members to create all this AI generated stuff, because you just need 3 people that know exactly how to communicate and be like, okay, we want to do this, and I need the background to be flowing like that, and the ashes to be falling. There'll still be a lot of work, but you could probably do it with 3-5 people rather than 100 people. So if I almost feel like that's inevitable. That's absolutely inevitable. As is infinity, it is inevitable that would occur, but not for a long time.
What's your favorite book of all time? Do you categorize them in that way?
Main Search for Meaning.
Yeah. Okay. Is that something you think that you would type in to a book and book AI and go, I want to read a book about a man going through the Holocaust, his theories on logotherapy, how he got through it, and whatnot? Much in the same way where The Alchemist by Paulo Coelho is in my top 10, but it's the sort of book where if I had viewed it on an uncharitable day, I would have gone, look at this fucking bullshit about it. It's getting close towards the manifesting, creating your own destiny through the power of positive thoughts. There is something to that, but I see how that gets manipulated with things like The Secret and a lot of woo-woo type stuff, where on balance I'm kind of more lean I'm more lean away from that sort of things. But that book, I go, I think there's something in that book where the character Santiago and his kind of continual pushing forward through fate and destiny and things like that, there's worthwhile things taking out from that. And I just can't imagine. I could imagine perhaps an AI creating a book of a similar quality. It would more just be, I can't imagine me as a layperson creating it and seeking out that, I guess, in a way. So it's kind of like, I get what you're saying. It's that are people going to be consuming only their own books that they've created through AI in the future? That I would say almost certainly not.
No,
I could imagine maybe a Paulo Coelho who had, like you were talking about, really good intent. I know exactly what I want to say.
And just leveraging,
feeding all of this into this book engine, and it creates this amazing book. And then that gets recognition kind of outside of just him wanting to read his own book, for example. And it's like, this is actually useful for other humans.
There was a distinction that was made in the, again, referring to Tim Ferriss and Kevin Rowe's podcast, but I would extend this particular idea. So they said, Tim was saying he totally would expect that in a few years' time, we're going to have books which are going to be, just as we see splits of fiction and non-fiction and drama and horror, there's going to be a
AI
human created, AI created. But I'd go a step further and I'd say, I think there's going to be definitely a market of human created, AI created, and AI supported type level. I definitely could see that happening, like almost certainly, even to the point that I generally think that if I wanted to, and again, this depending on the hours, I could probably make a book in a weekend now. Like I could probably write a book. Is it going to be a great book? No, but I could definitely write a book about almost like, I would probably be able to write, I think, because of the knowledge that I have, I could write a book around like great ways to train like arms, legs, back, that sort of thing with AI supported technology. So it just like creates a lot of the content and I'm putting the right like intent. Weekend, right? But I think if I was to publish something like that,
how many words?
Let's say, because when I don't know how much you've tried the brand new check trader. I create me a story, like a Christmas story about this particular team. And it was, I don't know how many words, but it was 9 to 12 paragraphs each time I would create a new one. And each paragraph was about, let's just say 4 to 5 lines, and each line had about 7 words. So
yeah, I'm just wondering, when you say you can create a book, do you just mean you can create a whole bunch of paragraphs? And
no, I'm talking together? Like cohesive story, cohesive story behind it.
Confident.
Will it be like good? No, I would probably say that it'd feel disjointed. Like you would find, like I've read books who are written by humans that feel disjointed. You know, like I'm going to call out Ryan Holiday, great book, but you know, is it
Which
thread? Well, many of them, but I'll say stillness is key. For a majority of the part, you can tell when books are written by singular chapters and not as a whole thread. Yeah, like you can tell, oh yeah, this chapter followed this chapter followed this chapter. But in otherwise, sometimes you can tell that people began in the second section and then went back to the first section because there's some references that were being used there that are not referenced there, or the definition of something is used slightly different. You can tell that sort of stuff.
Much like my pet peeve of dialogues or speeches that have been converted to text. Looking at you Buddhists, notorious for
that sort of stuff,
for doing that, and
so you miss some of the key.
It doesn't come across great. No.
Exactly. So, but I could see the need for that sort of split, because I think very quickly we're going to find that just purely AI generated stuff I think will exist in like the mass market of kids. For sure. Like, there's going to probably come a point where kids authors not going to be needed. You're going to put in like create funny images of animals in this particular type about being motivational and finding a stolen rocket in the bottom of an ocean. Dude, I would not be surprised if you could do this literally right now. But
every kids author is hating you right now.
Yeah, kids authors, you're literally fucked. I reckon you're totally fucked. And so I think that'll happen in like 10 years, 15 years, right? AI supported writing, dude. That if you're not, I mean, I'm not an author, I'm not a writer, but if you're not doing that today, right now, you're in for some trouble. Because I believe that there would be, whether you're like a news writer, whether you're a blogger, whether you're whatever, there's going to be for sure people out there now utilizing and leveraging ChatGPT or something equivalent to go, hey, I want to create, and like you can. Like I've tested this out now quite a bit of times. You can go like really detailed about what you want it to come out, get something, and then obviously edit it, give you your own flavor, get your own words. Like you can create massive articles quite quickly with it. And I think that should be denoted with AI supported, human written, something to that effect. So you can be like, you don't feel too, like for me at least, I'm like, I don't feel too bad. Like I can see that they've taken, it's the equivalent, I know from a work perspective, that I would ask someone in my team or someone who like will work for me to say, hey, I need to write an email to Jonathan about XYZ that we need to get done. Can you like write it up for me? I'll edit it and I'll send it. because you add your own flavor, your own needs, and you can be like, oh no, I don't want to say it this way. It needs to be said this way, etc.
Get angry at Jonathan. Yeah, he fucked up big time.
It's the exact same thing, but just writing up, like, obviously extending it out. And then I think that we're going to have this very fine sliver of people who will continue to just write books just as a human, purists.
Much like,
and there will be a market for just that purist view, but there will be very, very few and far between. Although I still imagine them to exist as like that rarefied sort of territory, and that those books will fetch like a lot of money.
Yeah. In the sense like watchmakers.
Yeah, there won't be 10,000, 100,000 copies. I see it as like, okay, I'm going to create only 1,000 copies, and they're going to be $100 each because they're really quite rare and not going to be found elsewhere just from your own mind. So certainly could see that. So
yeah, for sure. And the controversies are going to abound of people who are claiming they're human only or AI free, and then turns out 5 years later with some better technology which has AI detection, this person was actually lying and they did actually use a bunch of AI for their work.
Well, here's the interesting one, right? So like if you've got a young kid or about to have a kid, I bet my bottom, like, I'm just thinking from like school perspective, it's either going to have to shift the mentality of someone's education system, which I think it's in a good way, just in the same way that, do you have to learn about the capital cities of every country? No, because you Google that shit.
I hope not, because I don't know.
You Google that shit. Now, I know a lot more than most people, geographically wise. Like, for some reason, I think it's because Mum taught me a lot when I was younger. Do I need all that knowledge? Absolutely not. No one fucking gives two donkey shits.
Capital of Luxembourg, one.
Fuck you. But, like, to know, like, most Australians wouldn't really know that the capital of Australia is Canberra. Yeah, that sort of thing.
You reckon?
Most people wouldn't. Like, do you know what the capital of Brazil is?
It's not Rio. I think it's Sao Paulo.
It's Brasilia. Right? So, like, a lot of people, like, all this information, it's like, hey, it's knowable. Google it. You fucking Google it. Like, that sort of stuff. Like, at the moment now, I wouldn't expect the kid to, like, tell me it. They'd just be like, hey, Siri, what is it? Cool. That's what it is. Cool. Move on. Now, if you're not connected or you don't have internet, then, all right, fine. You can make a clause for needing that. But do you need that if you're lost? Probably not, unless you're trying to find the capital city in Brazil and for some fucking reason you're doing that. So there's that aspect, but I can imagine, in 15 years' time, imagine like we were going through school, say we're in year 10, and we get the Kite Runner or you get whatever else book, and it's like write a summary about this book in your own words and say what the highlights were. Like that is prime example for ChatGPT or some AI base where you could be like, bang, here's your big block of text. Go through and edit it to add, what you think, link it, maybe add your own thoughts personally, whatever. Done. And so it makes me think, will education and schooling systems change as fast as the technology that's coming in that's going to disrupt it? No. And so I think it's going to abound massive issues from it. Because if you've tested that AI text generation enough, you'll actually see that it does repeat itself. It does repeat itself in many ways, depending, once again, going back to the incantation, to the intent that you put. Because if you say, hey, can you write me a story? Very, very often it starts with a long time ago, right? It starts with that. Now, of course, you could edit it, you can change it. Once upon a time. But it's the usual. And so they would be, if there's this class and it's going to be like, hey, I need you to create a story about a horse and a saddle and a kid that falls off it and breaks his ankle. There's going to be a lot of similarities between all these stories, normally anyways, but you'd expect to be more deviation. I think as a teacher, you'd be reading and be like, why is everybody using the exact same words? So, yeah, I think it's going to, again, I probably feel sorry for whoever's having to manage the education system coming up, because I just don't, I can't fathom how they're going to keep up.
Yeah, what was that
changes.
Thing that was in uni to determine if you'd plagiarize someone else?
Yeah, it's like a plagiarized
There's a word
tool.
For it.
Wow, there was a tool that would actually go through. Tool. Gotcha. Yeah, I'm not sure.
I can't remember it either. It's been too long since we were at uni, obviously. Yeah. And that sort of stuff is going to happen for sure. I was chatting with a girl not long ago about books and why I kind of went off reading when I was in high school, because I was reading books like Looking for Alibrandi, Kite Runner, and just stuff I didn't care about, Shakespeare. And she was a smart cookie, and she said she never read any of them and just used the Cliff Notes. And I was like, damn, had it made. And that's like the pre-AI version of what a a smart kid will do, and not lose their passion for reading by reading shit
books. Shit books. The summary. Yeah.
Man, I'm definitely coming off as very negative in many ways today. I swear I'm not, people. I'm usually a lot more positive. But
Kyrin's going in 2023.
He's poking on all my sore points. He's just getting me on a roll. I love it.
It is what happens in 2023. Kyrin's realizing infinity exists after 30 years of living on Earth.
No, there's a recent thing, man. It's only the last 2 years where I've started to question it.
There's some fantastic books out there about it, for sure. About infinity.
Yeah. Well, the end of infinity.
The End of Infinity.
There we go. Go on. there is a book called The End of Infinity. Yeah. I haven't read that one though. Okay. I just know the title.
What's it about?
I don't know. I'm hoping that infinity is not a concept.
It's definitely not. Definitely not.
Yeah.
I'm pretty sure if infinity didn't exist, there's certain systems in our world that wouldn't work. There's like certain computing systems that wouldn't work if infinity didn't exist. I'd have to verify that, but yeah.
Yeah, that sounds like one coming up with something. Don't try and Google it. It's not gonna. Yeah, it's gonna. Your intent is to prove me wrong, and the AI is gonna go, oh, I'm just gonna feed Juan what he likes, whether it's truth or not.
Yeah.
So my last one here that I had was feeling like a loser. So. Got to get slightly deeper here, people. As I swear, there's a happy point at the end of this. So for long periods of my life, I definitely felt that I was lacking something. And this was especially noticeable when I went out to places like bars, to clubs, even out to just general places where people would congregate, sporting events, shopping centers, things like that. And I'd always kind of see my peers, as in people my own age, usually in like groups of mixed guys, mixed girls, maybe even just a group of guys, group of girls. And I would always kind of, when I would see them, it would make me feel bad in many a way. And I'd look at them and I'd go like I don't have that. I'm lacking something, because I've never had a mixed group of friends, I don't think even in primary school I was. There's a story my dad once told me about how the cul-de-sac I used to live in would get lots of guys. It was kids all around kind of same age. I was probably the youngest of the bunch. This was really before a lot of tech and phones and things, so we'd all just hang out in the cul-de-sac.
Yep.
And there was this girl, Laura, who was a year older or younger than me, and she went to the same primary school that I went to. And Dad said one day she saw me playing around there, and he heard this secondhand from a teacher or someone who was watching, was that she came up and gave me a hug. And now I was probably 8 years old, so she was either 7 or 9. And apparently I just went frozen stiff, like not sure what to do, super uncomfortable. And so that was, I guess, from that age and probably earlier. That's kind of always how I reacted around girls and women. I was always like a little bit on tenterhooks, not super comfortable. And I think that reflected in my friend choices. So I never had a mixed group of friends in primary school, in high school, in university. Never. And even though I had a friend group, which is, you and a bunch of friends that we mention here relatively often, and this being from high school, it was always, I think it was a friendship somewhat for me out of comfort in many ways. And so it definitely wasn't a friend group that pushed me to the limits of, hey, Kyrin, let's go out and like hit on girls or do something really uncomfortable. Let's go out and, mix with this other group. Whenever we would go out, but we'd always stay cloistered. It'd be very, very rare that one of us would branch out and talk to anyone else outside of our group, or it would be a random guy or a random girl who would come in and maybe talk to one of us, but it was never initiated on our point. And I think that was it hurt me. It hurt me when I would see other people and I'd be like, man, there's something wrong with me. Why can't I be like that? Why haven't I got that? And I think that it kind of played in the back of my mind for a long time, and it was just a festering thing. It was kind of like a little pin poke every now and then when I'd see that. I wouldn't dwell on it for ages, but neither did I put in place things to try and create new friends or find a new friend group or anything like that. Anyway, this past year, and in particular this Christmas period, it's been kind of cathartic in a way. Because I've had, over the last year or two, I've kind of found like another friend group, this being my handstand friends, which is a mixed group. There's kind of like 7, 8 of us, half guys, half girls. And, you know, we do things which I have never particularly done before. We had a house party the other day, and we all came over and exchanged Christmas gifts. I haven't even done that with you guys, you know, and we've known each other for getting on 17 years now. And another one, even though it's slightly different, was we went to Brewdog the other day in Murray. Just imagine a brewery for those at home with, you know, casual setting, little lights and stuff, some music. And we had a dinner there. 10 of us, 11 of us came along. And it was really nice because we had some friends who were flying up from Canberra and down from the Cairns, Mackay area. And, you know, it was one of those ones where you'd chat with someone for a bit and then you'd realize you haven't talked to someone else, so you'd go over here. And so we're all kind of switching around. We did that for 2.5, 3 hours. And then at the end of the evening, you know, we're all just kind of hanging outside, and it takes fucking forever to say goodbye. We walked outside, and then 15 minutes later is when we finally, still saying goodbye. And even that, I think, it felt different in a way because it was... It didn't feel like it was out of comfort anymore that we're hanging out. It was because, you know, it was actually hard to get everyone together. I had to kind of scrape and be like, Vipin, come at this time, you fucking don't try and weasel out of this. No maybes. And it was really nice because it wasn't out of comfort like it kind of used to feel for me. So I was wondering, and this, just for me has been like, man, I'm kind of normal now. Like if I look at other people, I'm like, I've got that. I don't need that anymore. I've really fucking got that. Yeah, I'm the best. But I don't know. I just want to get your ideas on. Do you think that there was a comfort level for you hanging out with us? Because this is a real recent reflection of mine. Going, oh yeah, and I'll add more on this, but I want to stop ranting. And was it a comfort level? Were you hanging out with me and Joey and some of our other friends for comfort, I guess? Because I looking back now, I would say I was, and it wasn't great for growth and development and things like that, but it was very necessary because I didn't have, you know, other friend groups.
Yeah, I don't think it was comfort, but I'm trying to think it through in my mind what it'd been. Because if I could really, if I put myself back in like high school days, I'm going with like talking with at the time.
But even maybe like university and even up until the age of, I don't know, 26, 27, you know, that sort of age.
Nah, never. Honestly, I think even if I was really thinking it through, I don't particularly have a care for friendships, really. Like, I have a care for close relations with people, but it doesn't automatically mean, I guess the definition of what that would be, I would say remove the friendship aspect of it. So I'd say not friend, because if you talk about like a friend group, couldn't give two shits, would be fine, and I wouldn't care for like the comfort, I guess, of drawing from like, do you need a friendship group or whatever? Nah, couldn't give a shit. But if there's lots of people that I'm quite close to that I can connect with over whatever time I want, then cool. That's what I look for. That's what I like. Want from a conversation perspective, from a like bouncing ideas perspective, whatever it may be. That's kind of more what it would be for me. So for myself, ever since I actually started to speak English, I remembered making like my first, I guess, what you'd call friend group, and I had that for a long time through primary school, then into high school. But I think that when I transitioned, especially when I was doing a lot of sports around that time, I just had a lot of groups of people that I would know. Like I had a lot of friends groups in different areas, and ever since then, I never had the mentality of like, I'm only like tied with like this one friend group, or I'm only ever going to be able to talk to them and not to like another group. That wasn't ever the case. So I guess that maybe drove why it was never a comfort thing. And in fact, if like I say, I've got a really good friend of mine, so I say as a friend or it's a close relation. I literally couldn't give a shit if I don't see him for a week, for a month, for a year, 2 years, 5 years. Don't even talk to him. It's fine.
Ever again?
But when I see him, but when I see him, cool. It's awesome. Like, we still talk, we still catch up, we still talk about detailed things. And it's like, hey, that's cool. That's what I want. But the need for comfort for a friend group, nah, not really. In fact, even though I'm extroverted, I feel by a lot of my own nature of like, yeah, I enjoy going out and speaking to lots of people and like getting to know people and that. I'm also quite equally really find a lot of joy in a lot of solitude. In fact, I wish upon me that I would have more solitude in my life than I have even currently now. Like for me, even more and more as life is going on, I mean, like, yeah, I really wish I could just go for like a 5-hour walk and just like listen to music, listen to my own podcasts. Training, like I just know for myself now more and more in training. Like even we used to go with our friend group to go training, and I enjoyed that. I did enjoy that. But if I look at it more now, I would start now choosing to be like, I don't want to do that. I'd rather just train on my own. That's more joyful. There's more efficiency. There's more effectiveness. There's more enjoyment to that. So I'm saying here, folks, I'm like, I'm never going to do that. That's not what it means. It just means that for me, yeah, I think in that definition, no, I never like sought comfort in friend groups. More keeping personal connections for that idea of rebounding and stuff like that. Yeah, so it'd be more along those lines.
We're going to play tennis after this, and Juan's just going to go to the court over, and he's just going to kid a ball to himself. And me and Joey will.
Like if I was like to be super like, if I can imagine, play tennis with like a group of friends, fun. To play tennis with, you know, if a random group came and they're like, hey, do you want to play with us? And for whatever reason they're like, oh, we want to play longer or whatever, and you guys didn't, I'd be like, cool, that's more enjoyable. I'm going to do that. If I play, because I used to do this, play tennis against like a wall, like a brick wall against the side of the house, just as enjoyable.
Yeah,
I think,
yeah. Well,
and for me,
we'll remember your story of kicking a ball in the out in the park outside your house, and other kids coming along, and you go.
I'd be like, go away.
Yeah.
So I find, so for me, the comfort, I guess, of playing with friends, nah, that doesn't exist to me. So like that equivalent of like, say, having one of my friends Joey come up and see him like every quarter or something like that, and then going to play tennis and doing those things. For me, it's a little bit like, yeah, if I had to say like, is there comfort between doing it like, you know, every quarter or every year or every 10 years? Nah, not really. There's no comfort or feeling of comfort behind that. Although you're saying that you've kind of moved away from that, so I guess I'd be saying I don't have that at all, but I definitely just want to maintain the connections with the different groups. So,
yeah. Well, I guess like the difference is just probably, you know, personality based. Like I was saying, I was really just not very anxious around women, guys as well, but women just 10x that for sure.
Yeah.
And
I don't know. I mean, for me, I just and I would have to look into it more deeply. But I'm like, I remember pre-knowing English, being in Colombia, that I had a variety of friend groups. I would talk to a lot of people. I'd still be going and talking to a lot of people. Going to Australia, I then spent like must have been like a year and a bit of just like zero connections, not speaking the language, hanging out on my own. But I can vividly remember like sitting at lunchtime, eating food, watching people play cricket, and my immediate thought, like maybe 20% would have been like, oh, I wish I could kind of play with them or I could do something. But the other 80% I was like, cool, I'm just sitting here. That's fine. That's fine with me too. But maybe the sort of like the spontaneity that once I learned enough English and I did find like a friend group, that first like initial amount of group and being like, this is easy. I can do this like fucking wherever. Maybe kind of went away. So I never had like that mentality that, there's a default comfort, I guess. And maybe it's because there wasn't any comfort for a long time and being okay with that. It was like mandatory non-comfort of not having any friends. So deal with the type of deal.
Yeah.
Maybe.
Yeah. Well, I look back and it's like, oh, man, would I wish I had done things differently, expanded to different friend groups and stuff like that. I just wasn't ready, you know, and a lot of it is related to this kind of concept of happiness, which I was saying I'm not chasing happiness. I always think is a silly kind of futile.
Yeah, I do
effort.
think that's silly.
And the problem is, you know, kind of it's a very rare person before the age of 29, 25 who knows what they want in terms of fulfillment and meaning in their life. You know, there's some people at that age, at 12, who know, I'm going to be a soccer player, I'm going to be an engineer, I'm going to work with animals. I think it's 1 in 100 maybe who knows exactly what they want to do with their life and can kind of get the the happiness as a byproduct of knowing that fulfillment and meaning. You can find happiness other places, but let's just put it that. So if I was trying to create different friend groups and, you know, become better with mixed friends and stuff like that, I think it would have been very hard to do, because I didn't know what I wanted to do with my life until, roughly age kind of 24, 25. Yeah. So
I guess maybe, and this for me, Immortal Lights out there, it might be a case of, you know, if when you were younger, were you put in such a mandatory position that you had to go and find new friends? Like it didn't sound to me like you had a position where it was like, you literally have to go and find new friends now. There's no choice. That's what it is. The
forcing of kind of coercion of, now if it was life dictating that, maybe that's acceptable. But you know, if my dad was seeing this and going, Kyrin, you need to, and he could have said, Kyrin, you need to go get a job and socialize more. Kyrin, you need like a part-time job. Kyrin, you need to expand your friend group. I'm going to put you in dance class. Kyrin, you need to do this.
Yep.
I would have hated it, and I would have resented him. It's one of those ones where I look back and I go, I think I kind of had to endure the suck for those years.
And everyone's going to suck at some point, right? Like life is full of terrible circumstances and actions.
Very harsh.
Not that it can't be harsh. It is harsh. I think that's the reality of it. And if you think otherwise, then you're retarded. Go and figure it out, because I'm telling you that whether you put any sort of like position anyone would have existed, say the family's billionaires and you have everything you want it, you're going to have depressive stuff, you're going to have terrible stuff happen to you. Like, you know, suffering comes to us in all ways, shapes and forms, no matter where you are. So that's why I think, you know, chasing no suffering or just pure happiness doesn't exist. Shut up. That doesn't exist.
Yeah.
Right? We're mere mortals. Be real about it. But on the other end, it's kind of like, it makes me think, I wonder whether my default in my mind was like, I wonder if you would actually encourage a kid to go and do an exchange program. Like, hey, go to Japan, go to the US, go to Germany for 6 months, because it's not like a forced go somewhere, you're asking, but maybe that mandatory feeling of you need to kind of make new friends at such a young age is helpful to realize that you don't need the comfort of the familiarity to actually be able to expand. So
yeah, nice.
Anyways, we're going pretty long, and our friend's actually walking up here right now,
and it's just starting to rain as well.
So I love that.
All of that combining.
Anyways.
So my little call out for today is, so there's a Value for Value podcast. We do ask that you provide some value back to us for all the value we're doing for free here. I'm going to make it very simple for today. Share this with a friend. Tell a friend if they have any of these concepts that they particularly enjoy and would find useful. And I would also say, check out the Mere Mortals book reviews for the couple of AI generated stuff that Juan's doing. Have a check out of those and see if you notice them yourself. And then also if the Courage to be Disliked is up your alley. Have a check out of that. So Juan, let's call it here for today, my friends.
Good. All right, Immortalize. Juan out.
Kyrin out. Peace.
Good.